All right, hey guys. I recently put together the sheet. It's kind of like I'm calling it a Coach MegaSheet, and it's got a lot of information on it. I want to include more information in the near future, so I'm going to continue working on it. But I felt like this was a good baseline to introduce it and like put it out there, and so I'll go over some things, break it down a little bit. I don't want to go like too in depth, but I want to let people know where to find this. Maybe give some updates, maybe explain a couple things, and so we'll just go over it. So first page, pretty self-explanatory. It's an introduction sheet. I basically wanted to structure it so like you go to this page first, you see all the information you need to see, because I know some people will only need like one section of this entire list. So I give very brief examples for like win-loss sheet, OBS settings, different things like that. So if like you're a coach and you're just like, man, I can't get OBS right, then there's a section in here where you can go get some suggestions, see what I use, see if that can work out for you, and then be like, okay, I got the OBS that I want working, and I don't need any of this other stuff, so they can go just directly to it, easy for them. So we'll go by tab by tab. So the first example is just I mocked up like a win loss sheet. My win loss sheets are like usually like I don't know, 800 lines because it's one for each map. So I just gave some random examples here of like NYXL versus Fuel. I've never been in any of those scrims, but like examples of like map names, how you list them differently, how you list the score over time results, whatever. And then I basically just listed like some notes that it would kind of be in there. It's not very specific. They're kind of just very general, like we struggled the path to make the most of our long range comp. Go over pathing and reviews. Our Sombra needs to scout and feed more information. It's just something you might put in there. It's not something that like is from experience because I don't want to like leak anything from any of the teams that I've been on. So I was just like kind of like brainstorming. I was like, what is some things that I put in there? And then that's basically it. So you can just copy this if you're wanting to like use a spreadsheet and you don't know what to use. You can just straight up copy this, delete all the information that's currently in it, and then just keep like the format of it. If you get a win, loss, enter that in, your own notes, everything you can just list on yourself, but you can just copy this page directly and then just enter the information and it'll be like very organized for you to go back. So next is OBS settings. I go over like my computer specs and like different things that I did. I had a weaker CPU before this and it was still working at like a well enough level. So these settings actually could probably be changed a little bit. List some bottlenecks. The bottlenecks are the most important thing. It's basically CPU. GPU, it uses like 10% of my GPU from the recording, and like the game doesn't even use that much, so it's like very hard to actually like max out your GPU unless you're using like a very old one. And then some more information. So that one's very like self-explanatory. Like if you need the settings, this is what I use. This is what you might need to change if you have a weak CPU. I go over some note taking. I kind of want to break this down a little bit differently. I actually want to make like a coach section and explain like the different roles of actually like different coaches, because there's like very different work that you can do as a coach. So like as a head coach, you can do something that like an analyst or an assistant coach would probably not be like on their priorities. So I kind of list like some things that like a coach would do in here. So like for instance for staff, is sort of more of an assistant coach head coach thing, and an analyst wouldn't necessarily do that, but they might actually gather the information, feed that to a head coach, and then he would be the one saying it. So it's kind of like a bit of both of staff coordinating with each other, but I feel like if I laid that out more, it would be better in another section so I can go more in depth and actually like describe roles and like examples of what they can do. So it's more just general note taking, and it is very comprehensive, I'd say, where if you do some more deep thinking with this, it's like if you include all of these, if you do all of these, you will encompass a lot of different avenues for yourself to have better notes yourself, have better communication with your players, for your staff, have that information available for future endeavors or using it yourself, and then being able to have like a history with a person and being like, this is all that I've said to you during the season, so if we need to retouch back on any of this, it's very available and accessible. So the other tools is like my experience. I think there's actual other things that are on this list that could potentially be added, which I don't personally use, but I could get experience with them and then add them to this list. So I think there's a Stat Banana Pro version that I'm looking at getting, which I have no experience with. I just have the experience with using the maps. So maybe I can use the Pro version. I'll buy it. I think it's only $5 to get the planning 201. So maybe I get that. I do a little bit of work with it, and then I see if I can recommend it. I was basically just listing like how much it is. A lot of them are free, or ways to get them are free. So it was just an example of like things I use that are very helpful for me, that if someone else doesn't know about, then they can access them that way. Time management for a team. So I sort of drew time management up for both, and then I kind of like mixed them up, and I was like, this doesn't make a lot of sense. So I'm going to break them into two different things. So time management for team and IRL. So the team one's more important if you're just trying to get involved with a team and if your IRL can't be moved around much. So I basically break down some examples of like, here's some situations that a team at like contenders level might expect. It's like 6 hours ish of practice that they can have. Maybe they have 5, maybe they have 4, but just some different examples. So like, some people might just think, hey, teams just scrim, but there's different things that you can do. So you can like break it up. For the example at the very bottom, I prefer an hour of review, an hour of drills, and then 2 2-hour scrims, because I feel like sometimes when you try to stretch out and get 6 hours of scrims, you don't get the highest potential from all of them. So some time management I just wrote for like different things. I gave an example of some drills. There's probably more drills that I can actually add to here, and then actually give some more information on like what reviews would be like time management wise. So like, you wouldn't just watch one VOD in its entirety, because you won't most likely get the most of just like waiting for people to rotate and stuff. It's much better to have a video that's cut and then go over it and pause it, and then like cut out all the filler stuff that you would normally just be sitting there through and people wouldn't be able to talk. So time management IRL, this is a lot of basically what you can do with your day, and then some management of like time and such. So there's like work hours, team hours, free time, optimal human needs. So there's things in here where it's like you have to do them, and sometimes they aren't your choice. So like work, human, and sometimes people will need like guaranteed free time during the day to like let loose, so they can just like be their normal selves. So this is just an example of it. There's different things on here, some examples of like what I have, and then what a general team might look like if they have like 4 hours in a day, and then maybe if they're a working player or something where they have like school or work and then they got to come home and then they have a very limited amount of time. So I break down some different things that you can consider, and then I also give some options. So like, maybe taking that free time away will make you more stressed, or maybe it won't be as optimal for you as a person, but maybe it'll be better for your career. So maybe you have a couple days where you set aside your free time and then you work more on your team, you work on reviewing and things like that, where it isn't your priority, but you can go after the fact that you'll know, hey, I'm going to improve because I'm going to be spending more time doing this than anyone else. So it'll just boost your level up. And then the last tab is analysis. So analysis is, I probably should have broken this down into coaching as well, but it was more so like I wanted to like list things out. So the types of analysis that you can do: reviews, scouting, concepts, ultimates. So reviews, long form reviews, I've done a lot of them, lots of one-on-one stuff that I can't actually include. So I did a lot of the team long form reviews that I've done. There's a lot of reviews that I've done one-on-one with players, which is their POV of contenders matches with their comms. Sometimes they're solo queue games, sometimes they're actual practice games. So some of those things I actually can't include until I get their permission, or it's been a long enough period of time where I don't think it will affect their job security or any of that, where it'll be leaked and it'll be like really bad. So maybe I'll buy some more time and then I'll use some older ones and I'll apply that. Some of the scouting things, I actually did like a big scouting sheet for the Fusion versus XL2 series. So I actually went through, got all the information that I needed to, scouted all of it. And I basically know that series like the back of my hand at this point. So you can do scouting, and it's like very important, I'd say. If you're like in a contenders team, you have one person dedicated to doing that. So you can like find out all the information you need to about other teams, applying that information. There's some game concept stuff. I probably need to, and I've thought about this, is like making a large long form game concept video that's more general. For a lot of them, I've done them for teams and such, which is stuff that is either old, so it was only applying to the older meta, and then at the time I only made it for my team at the time. So it was like private videos where it'd be like getting just the roles of my teammates and I'd be describing them and like how they'd work. So was very specific, and I think I can make a more general concept video for Probably the main tank meta at the moment. I think it's actually like really cool how the meta is actually working, where the game's like kind of playing like it's never played before. So maybe that's something I can like dive more into in the future. Then there's of course ultimates, like how to better use them as a solo player. A lot of that is one-on-one analysis, but you can like do a write-up and find some information. Then there's a tracking thing that I've also done where I found that like on very specific maps where I think spam maps was like the best example that I could think of, is like you can find very specific examples of if your team is not earning enough ultimate charge from their players, so the DPS or the tanks or the Zen or something isn't like getting enough ult charge, you can definitely spot and see where that information can be applied, and it can change your hero picks. It can change how players are playing. So if you notice a trend where a player is playing on the right side of the map and they're getting more ult charge than they would if they were playing main or top left, on a certain map, then you can say, hey, maybe this right side of the map is actually more of a preference for our team, and we can now make a gameplay change around that information that we had, where it was basically just making a conclusion from numbers, and then we apply that information and see what we can get from it. So it would be like, we now have a higher percentage win rate given we've made this change. So that's just another thing that you can do. I give examples. The tracking one is much harder to do because it takes a lot longer, because there's a lot of number crunching and stuff like that. So that one's more specific and it's much more focused if you figured like a lot of your other problems out. So that's it. Other things I might want to include. So I'm thinking coaching as a tab, like the roles of the different coaches. I'm trying to think, what else could I include? I had something else in my brain at the time. I could just include, like, I have a win-loss sheet. Maybe I have the other sheets just like in their own section, so you don't have to like scroll to like analysis, then look at tracking. So I could just have a specific sheet for that, and then have like all the roles. So like main tank, off tank, all the roles just like sectioned out. And then for like a certain map, you could just plug in the numbers after the fact, and then it would give you information out from it. So that's a bit more like finicking with like spreadsheets to actually like get that information out there. Yeah, I could include more examples of long form concepts. Maybe include some more drills. Maybe include some more note taking, because I could give some examples of things that I've had for like sticky notes and stuff like that. I do give examples, but maybe I could give like the picture of an example. So like a picture of a sticky note, picture of a Discord message or something. I just have to get approval from others. That's the most important thing. And then that's probably it. Maybe I can include some more like VODs and different videos and stuff, but besides that, it's pretty straightforward as to what all of this is. So that's basically it. Thanks for watching. If you want to check out the spreadsheet, I'll include it in the description. Yeah, that's